सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः। देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। Let us chant up to verse number 14 together. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. अथ सप्तमोऽध्यायः ज्ञानविज्ञानयोगः। श्रीभगवानुवाच मय्यासक्तमनाः पार्थ योगं युञ्जन्मदाश्रयः असंशयं समग्रं मां यथा ज्ञास्यसि तच्छृणु। ज्ञानं तेऽहं सविज्ञानम् यज्ञात्वा नेह भूयोऽन्यत् ज्ञातव्यमवशिष्यते। मनुष्याणां सहस्रेषु कश्चित् यतति सिद्धये यततामपि सिद्धानां कश्चिन्मां वेति तत्त्वतः। भूमिरापो नलो वायुः खं मनो बुद्धिरेव च। अहङ्कार इति यं मे भिन्ना प्रकृतिरष्टधा। अपरेयमितस्त्वन्यां प्रकृतिं विद्धि मे पराम्। ययेदं धार्यते जगत् एतत् योनीनि भूतानि सर्वाणीत्युपधारय। अहं कृत्स्नस्य जगतः प्रभवः प्रलयस्तथा। मत्तः परतरं नान्यत् किञ्चिदस्ति धनञ्जय। मयि सर्वमिदं प्रोतम् रसोऽहमप्सु कौन्तेय प्रभास्मि शशिसूर्ययोः। प्रणवः सर्ववेदेषु शब्दः खे पौरुषं दृशु। पुण्यो गन्धः पृथिव्यां च तेजश्चास्मि विभावसौ। जीवनं सर्वभूतेषु तपश्चास्मि तपस्विषु। बीजं मां सर्वभूतानां विद्धि पार्थ सनातनम्। बुद्धिर्बुद्धिमतामस्मि तेजस्तेजस्विनामहम्। बलं बलवतां चाहम् धर्माविरुद्धो भूतेषु कामोऽस्मि भरतर्षभ। ये चैव सात्विका भावाः राजसास्तामसाश्च ये मत्त एवेति तान् विद्धि Natvaham teshu te mai tribhirgunamayair-bhavaihi ebhis sarvamidam jagata mohitam nabhijanati mamebhyah paramavyayam daivi hesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya Mayamitam tarantite. So Bhagavan in this chapter is revealing the secret. Who is he? So the promise given was, Arjuna, I will give you Jnanam and Vijnanam. So what is that Jnanam? Jnanam is that the whole world is divine. It has come from God. It is none other than God. And what is Vijnanam? This God is none other than the self in us, the consciousness in us. This is Vijnanam. So how can God be experienced? God can be experienced as the very self, as I am. That is the way God has to be experienced. But then we do see that in Puranas, etc., God comes in some form and goes away. What about that? In Puranas, you find, whatever the Purana may be, if it is Bhagavata Purana, you will find Lord Vishnu coming, blessing the devotee and going away. In Shiva Purana, Lord Shiva comes. What about that? So then we say, the very fact that it comes and goes shows that it is not the ultimate truth. What is the proof that something should be ultimate truth? The proof is it should remain forever. It should never be negated. It should never get denied. So the very fact that this devotee is seeing the form and then the form disappears, it shows that this form has a beginning and an end. Therefore, not the ultimate truth. But what about the self in us, the consciousness in us? It is ever there for perception. So therefore, this alone can be real. But do you mean to say that that form is an illusion or it doesn't signify anything? No. It signifies that your mind is pure. It signifies that you are tuned to the divine. So a Shiva Bhakta will see only a Shiva form. A Vishnu Bhakta see only a Vishnu form. A Jesus Bhakta will see a Jesus form. So it has something to do with your mind. It has something to do with your sadhana which you are practicing. So any form that you see, it only implies that the mind is still active. The mind is not silenced totally. The mind has not disappeared totally. Therefore, it is not the ultimate truth. Right, so God has to be experienced as one's own self. So then what does Bhagavan say? Alas, though I am there as the very own self of each and every being, they don't recognize me. Bhagavan is lamenting. Sarvamidam jagat mohitam. They are totally deluded. They are searching for God everywhere, except the place where He actually is. So then what is the way? So Bhagavan gives a very useful tip here. Daivi hesha gunamai mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. This maya of mine is very difficult to cross over. But then there is only one way. And what is the way? Mameva ye prapadyante. So yesterday we were discussing about how to meditate based on this verse. So in the seat of meditation, you experience thoughts, you find thoughts arising in the mind, and you are watching the mind. So what is it that you experience at the seat of meditation? You find that either you can get identified with the thoughts and go on and on and on. When you identify with the thoughts multiply. You will get no control over the thoughts. One after the other, in a stream, the thought flow continues. But suppose you are able to witness these thoughts. So when we say witnessing these thoughts, it means you are abiding in consciousness. It means you are paying attention to consciousness. It means you value consciousness. It means you are not interested in any of the things which the thoughts bring to you. It means you are not interested in the world, you are interested in God. Ananya Bhakti it is called. Abiding in consciousness itself is the greatest bhakti. Abiding in the self itself is the greatest bhakti. That bhakti and jnana merge together. So many times what happens is the world is so attractive and tempting that this process becomes difficult. The world is so attractive that you start paying attention to the thoughts, you start getting interested in the thoughts. You are getting interested in the thoughts, meaning you are interested in the world. So in the technical language we say vairagyam is lacking, dispassion is lacking. As long as you are interested in the world, experience of God will keep missing. Right? So what are the virtues, what are the qualifications necessary for a seeker? He must have intense devotion, he must have discrimination, and he must have dispassion. 3 Ds. Devotion, discrimination, dispassion. With the discrimination, he is able to know which is real, which is unreal. Which is the truth, which is not. Which is God, which is not. Vedantic knowledge gives him this. Intense bhakti ensures that I remain with consciousness. Because bhakti is nothing but love. Wherever there is love, concentration becomes natural. So love for God is very essential. At the same time, dispassion towards the world is equally essential. Dispassion towards the world helps you drop the world, get detached from the world, and devotion to the Lord helps you get attached to the Lord. Both are necessary. Detachment from the world, attachment to the Lord. So if these qualifications are there, in true measure, you will find meditation happening smoothly. Otherwise, you will struggle at the seat of meditation. Normal problems encountered by devotees, they are laya and vikshepa. At the seat of meditation, either you go to sleep. You go to sleep because you don't have sufficient strength to direct the mind towards the real. Either you go towards sleep or you will find the mind is wandering. A wandering mind indicates dispassion is lacking, devotion is lacking. So then what we have to do? We have to cultivate them. As you cultivate these qualifications, these virtues, you will find your meditation becoming more and more steady. Yes. The entire Ramayana is a symbolic representation of meditation alone. Pujya Gurudev has written a beautiful commentary, the symbolism of Ramayana. So there, Sita represents Jiva. So in the forest, as long as Sita was there with Sri Ramchandra Ji, everything was fine. She was very happy. So in the same way, as long the Jiva is with Ishvara, Jiva is always happy. Even in the forest, Sita was happy. Meaning, even in tragedies and difficulties, even in problems, the seeker is happy as long as he is tuned to God. But then Sita made a mistake. What is the mistake? There was this golden deer, and for a split second her attention went from Rama to the deer. Now it is a golden deer. Remember, golden deer is impossible. If it is a live deer, it cannot be golden. A anything which is made of gold cannot be alive. Meaning what? This golden deer represents the temptations, the attractions of the world. This world promises you as though that there is happiness in the world, but actually it is only an illusion. This illusory happiness of the world is indicated by the golden deer. So Sita ji, for a split moment for her, deer became the highest priority, Rama became secondary. Right? That is a mistake she commits. And what is the price she pays for it? Ravana comes and kidnaps her. Who is Ravana? Ravana is none other than Dasha Mukha. That is the name given. 10 heads. What are these 10 heads? 10 heads are nothing but 10 indriyas. So as long as she had kept Rama as the highest priority, who is Rama? Dasharatha Nandana. So long your mind will be under your control. But the moment she ignored Rama, she encountered Dasha Mukha. Meaning what? The person becomes extroverted. The 5 sense organs become extroverted. She is kidnapped. Where? Lanka. Right? Meaning, the moment you give world the importance, the moment you ignore God, what happens? You are in a materialistic world. What you choose in this world, you get it. Do you choose God? You will get God. Do you choose world? You will get world. So the moment the matter became important, you become a materialistic person. So she was taken to Lanka, and Lanka is considered to be highly materialistically prosperous. Right? And she encounters Dasha Mukha, meaning a materialistic person is always extrovert. Paranchikhani vyatranat swayambhu tasmat parang pashyate na antaratman. Kaschidhiraha swatmanamaikshat avrita chakshuhu amrutatvam icchan. Kathopanishad. Paranchikhani, all sense organs are always extroverted. The verse says, these extroverted sense organs have killed the Lord who is within. Killed the Lord means what? Such an extroverted person can never experience the infinite Lord residing in the heart. Kaschidhiraha, very, very rare few wise people, amrutatvam icchan, desiring immortality, avrita chakshuhu, they look within. Very rare few people look within. And they gain that supreme state of immortality. So now the Sita ji is there, where? In Lanka. Because she chose Lanka. Lanka means materialism. And then what happened? She understood her mistake. She did not cooperate with Ravana. She always chanted Bhagavan Ramchandra ji's name. And then what happened? Bhagavan came, killed Ravana. Killed Ravana means what? Killed the extroverted tendencies of the sense organs. The person becomes introvert. The person develops dispassion towards the world. And thus he becomes introvert, develops devotion, discrimination, and gains Ramachandraji. Once Sita ji gains Ramachandraji, where she will have to go? She will have to go to Ayodhya. What is Ayodhya? Yuddha means conflict, war. Ayodhya means the place where there is no war. Meaning, the jiva attains absolute peace and bliss. This is the symbolic representation. So the whole journey of the sadhaka is symbolically represented in Ramayana. Right. Now comes another topic. What is the topic? In this world, you will find varieties of people. How do they look at this knowledge? The knowledge has been given. Jnana Vijnana Yoga has been given. Now comes the topic Ishvara Upasana. What are the kind of devotees present in the world? It has been categorized. So the first category is those people who totally ignore this knowledge. They have no value at all for this knowledge. Those kinds of people are described first. Then Bhagavan describes devotees at different levels. So first category, what has been described is those people who totally disregard, disrespect this knowledge. What happens to them? How do they lead their life? This is verse number 15. Let us chant. Namam dushkritino mudhaha prapadyante naradhamaha Mayaya pahrita jnanaha Asuram bhavamashritaha Namam dushkritino mudhaha Prapadyante naradhamaha Mayaya pahrita jnanaha Asuram bhavamashritaha. Yes. These kinds of people, namam prapadyante, they don't seek me at all. They have no value for this knowledge. They don't believe in the existence of God, number one. Then there is a question of seeking God. Totally atheist. So now the description is given. How do they lead their life? So many terms are given. Let us put them in an order. The first term, mudhaha. Mudhaha means what? Ignorant people, foolish people. Mudhaha. Ignorant of what? Ignorant of this knowledge. Mudhaha. Why did they become ignorant? Mayaya apahruta jnanaha. Second term. Their knowledge has been apahruta, looted away, taken away by mayaya, by maya. So here, please remember, when we say ignorance, what kind of ignorance? It is self-ignorance. Ignorance about oneself. From here, the series of calamities start. Mudhaha means he is ignorant. Ignorant of what? Ignorant of his own true nature. How did he become ignorant? Mayaya apahruta jnanaha. His knowledge has been taken away by maya. So here what is maya? When a person identifies himself with the matter envelopments, then we say such a person is deluded by maya. Meaning, when he gets identified with the lower nature of God, matter is nothing but lower nature, apara prakriti. All those things which you have learned earlier must come in mind now. So this person, he doesn't know what is consciousness. He doesn't know his nature. He doesn't know who he truly is. Now what does he take himself to be? He considers himself to be nothing but this body. Any body-oriented person is being described here. Mayaya apahruta jnanaha. He has no knowledge about himself. He thinks he is this body. Right? Why does he think he is his body? Because of identification. So he doesn't know what is consciousness. He knows only one thing: I am this body. This is called ignorance. With this knowledge about himself, with this erroneous knowledge about himself, what kind of philosophy he will have? Asuram bhavam ashritaha. Taking refuge in asuri bhava, demonic attitude. Such a person becomes an asura. Now here you say definition of who is an asura. Right? Asura is defined as asusu ramante iti asuraha. Who is an asura? Not the one with 2 horns and terrible teeth, fangs they call it. 2 teeth here, horn, eyes red with anger, terrible to look at, with cactus-like weapon. This is the way Puranas describe asuras. They depict asuras. But remember, once we see this definition, we will come to know almost all of us are asuras only. Let me describe what is an asura. Asusu remante iti asuraha. Those people who revel in asu. Asu means sense organs. For those who consider the knowledge brought in by the sense organ as the only truth. Whatever I see, that alone is true. Whatever I hear, that alone is true. Unless something is proved, I will not believe. This attitude. Asusu ramante. The pleasures coming from the sense organs, that is the highest happiness. The purpose of life is to indulge in this world. Those people who have this philosophy is called an asura. Now, how did he become asura? Because of self-ignorance. This link is important. See, a person who considers himself to be this body, mind, intellect, who doesn't know what is consciousness, when he looks into himself, what does he find? Will he find happiness? When he looks within, what does he find? He doesn't find Satchit Ananda Atma. What does he find? He only finds Jivatma. At the body level, there is imperfections, limitations are there. At the body, mind, intellect level, there is only imperfections and limitations. So when such a person looks within, will he find any kind of happiness? Impossible. When your attention is towards imperfections and limitations, you can never be happy because you are basically infinite. An infinite being identified with a finite thing can never be happy. That is why most of us, we are not able to sit alone in a room doing nothing. Try this. One day, without any mobile, without any newspaper, without any television, without any internet, just sit with yourself. Close all the doors. Only for food you go out. Just remain there. Are you enjoying your company? Ask yourself this question. The whole day you just do this exercise. Are you cheerfully able to remain quiet? Meaning, are you enjoying your company with yourself? Most of us can't stand even for 5 minutes, isn't it? The moment we have nothing to do, the moment the mind is idle, we start getting repelled by our own company. What is the proof? The proof is immediately we want something to hang on to. Either we'll take our mobile phone, do something with it, take some newspaper, switch on the TV, or go to some friend's house, or go to some movie. You are trying to escape from yourself. Have you ever noticed this? Deep-rooted symptoms are very clearly seen. What is it? You are not able to enjoy your own company. You are not able to enjoy your company because when you look within, you are not finding any kind of happiness and bliss. You are not finding any happiness and bliss, though you are the nature of bliss. What is your nature? You are Ananda Sarupa, but when you look within, there is no Ananda. Isn't it? There is only sorrow. So when you don't find happiness within, where will you try to seek this happiness? If you are not finding it inside, naturally you will search it for outside. Desire for happiness is there within you because that is your nature. You can't be without it. So that desire is there to be happy. Inside it is not there, so you start seeking it outside. How do you seek it? By indulging in sense pleasures. There is some kind of happiness available when you indulge in the pleasures. Right? Now, in order to indulge in sense pleasures, you must have sense objects. Isn't it? Unless there is a sense object, how will you indulge? Now, the tragedy of this world is sense objects are few, desirers of the sense objects are many. So then what happens? Desired objects, they are few, desirers are many. So then what happens? What happens is competition, cutthroat competition, correct? Quarrel, fight, all these things will happen. And in extreme cases, killing also. Now see how a person becomes asura. When you don't know yourself, when you are not happy with yourself, contented with yourself, naturally you will seek happiness outside, you will seek happiness from the world. When you seek happiness from the world, you will find there are so many competitors for you, because majority of them are asuras only. So you have to become an asura in order to get the sense object. You have to compete. You have to fight. You have to fight for your rights. Isn't it? They say it's a competitive world. What is this competitive world? It is only meant for asuras, remember. Why do you want to compete? So then when you become an asura, what happens next? Dushkritinaha. See the next term. Dushkritinaha. All his actions become dushta, evil. Competing with others, all evils come. Evils like jealousy, hatred, revenge. These are all asuri bhavam. Right? All the negativity starts emerging from you. See the logic. Mudhaha. Why? Mayaya apahrita jnanaha. What is the result? Asurim bhavam ashritaha. Then dushkritinaha. It is linked. Right? In the society, whatever crimes we see, everything is because of this. Because of what? Because we don't know who we are. Now let us compare and contrast with a Mahatma. First of all, what is the primary importance he gives in life? He is not mudaha, he is jnani. He knows who he is. So when he looks within, what does he find? What does he find? Sat, Chit, Ananda, Atma. Infinite happiness is there within. The mind is fully contented and satisfied with the joy which is present inside. The worldly pleasures are nothing compared to the infinite bliss one experiences in oneself. Therefore, he is totally contented. As far as bodily needs are concerned, remember, they are only needs, they are not greeds. There's a big difference between need and greed. All of us, we have needs. And in this world, sufficient is there to satisfy the needs of each and every one. Mahatma Gandhi says, as far as needs are concerned, the world has sufficient. But as far as the greed is concerned, the world is not enough even to satisfy the greed of one person. So as far as a Mahatma is concerned, he gains infinite happiness and bliss within himself. He has only the bodily needs, and after that he is happy. He is contented. And what does he do with the rest of his time? He is available to do selfless service because he doesn't need anything. Since he is totally contented, since he is the richest person in the world. What is the definition of the richest person? Definition of the richest person is not the one who is a billionaire. Richest person is the one who is totally contented in himself. Contentment is the greatest wealth of this world. Even if you are a billionaire, if you are still greedy, you are the poorest person in this world. Now this Mahatma, he has gained that infinite happiness, right? And not only that, remember, when you know yourself, you come to know that the consciousness in you is the same in everyone. So therefore, there is a vision of oneness. And because of the vision of oneness, there is unconditional love. Love becomes natural to you. spontaneous to you, you start loving everyone, just like you love yourself. Because it is the same consciousness which is pulsating as life in all beings. Naturally, such a person will start loving everyone. His heart will melt with compassion, and out of compassion comes selfless service. See what happens with this knowledge. This knowledge brings in love. This knowledge brings in contentment. This knowledge brings in service. So he is not asuram bhavam ashritaha. What is he? Devim bhavam ashritaha. Filled with divine virtues. How can I help someone? How can I serve someone? This will be his attitude. So then what kind of actions it will be? It won't be dushkritinaha, it will be sukritinaha. All his actions will be for the welfare of all. See the difference. Suramandira moola nivasaha shayya bhutalam ajinam vasaha sarva parigraha bhogatyagaha kasya sukham na karoti viragaha. Which text? Bhaja Govinda. Yes. Suramandira taru moola nivasaha. Where does he stay? He stays under a tree near a temple, meaning minimum demands, minimum needs. Suramandira taru moola nivasaha shayya bhutalam. What is his bed? The earth. Shayya bhutalam. Ajinam vasaha. What is his dress? Some bark of a tree, some skin of some animal. Meaning taking minimum from the society, totally contented with even minimum things. Sarva parigraha bhogatyagaha. He has given up what? Sarva parigraha, accumulating, hoarding things. There is no more hoarding. Bhogatyaga, he has given up all kinds of sense pleasures, indulging in pleasures. Why? Because he knows real happiness doesn't come from the world. Real happiness is my true nature. Such a person who is so dispassionate, kasya sukham na karoti viraga, who will not be happy when leading such a life? Yogarato va bhogarato va sangarato va sangavihinaha yasya brahmani ramate chittam nandati nandatyeva. Whether he is in yoga or bhoga, yogarato va bhogarato va sangarato va, whether he is with people, sangavihinaha, or he is alone, it doesn't matter to him. Yasya brahmani ramate chitta. The one whose mind is reveling in the Supreme Lord. What is his experience? Nandati nandatyeva. Continuous bliss is his experience. Uninterrupted bliss is his experience. The glory of knowledge is pointed out here in this verse by pointing out what happens when you ignore this knowledge. The point is this. Sometimes you have to glorify something by pointing out the defects of not having that thing. Isn't it? So what do we become when we don't have this knowledge? We become asuras. Materialistic people who have no faith in God, who have no faith in afterlife, who have no faith in goodness, who have no faith in morality, such people are called as asuras. Asusu ramante iti asuraha. Bhagavan says, Arjuna, don't become like this. Then how should I become? You should not become a dushkritinaha, you should become a sukritinaha. So this is first class, people who don't believe in God, one class. Now the next class people. Who are they? People who believe in God. Even those people who believe in God, there are some stages. So that is what is pointed out in the next verse. Let us chant that. Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukritinarjuna arto jitnyasurartharthi jnani cha bharatarshava चतुर्विधा भजन्ते मां जनाः सुकृतिनोऽर्जुन आर्तो जिज्ञासुरर्थार्थी ज्ञानी च भरतर्षभा. Yes, another very famous verse in Bhagavad Gita. Hey Arjuna, Sukritinah. So earlier it was Dushkritinah, people who do evil actions. Now we are talking of people who are Sukritinah, who do good actions. How many types are there? Chaturvidhaha janaha. There are 4 types. Chaturvidhaha janaha mam bhajante. The devotees who worship me, they fall into 4 categories. What are they? Number 1, artaha. Number 2, jitnyasuhu. Number 3, artharthi. Number 4, jnani. 4 types. So who is an artha? Artha means one who is afflicted, one who has a lot of sufferings, pains in life, problems in life, difficulties in life. So this person, because of his problem, he is seeking God. Right? Such a devotee is called Artha Bhakta. Then the second one is called Artharthi Bhakta. He has no problem, but he has lot of desires. I want this, I want that. So in order to fulfill those desires, he is seeking God. The third one is a Jitnyasu. Jitnyasu devotee is the one who is more curious about life. He has lot of questions regarding life. He wants to know who God is. Such a person is called a Jitnyasu. And the fourth one is called a Jnani. Who is a Jnani? Jnani is the one who has understood who God is, who has realized God. So Bhagavan says these are the 4 people who seek me. So remember one thing, all these 4 people, they believe in God, they have faith, and they worship God also. Compared to the other one, Dushkritinaha, they don't have even faith in God. Here, these people have faith in God, they worship God, therefore Bhagavan say, all of them are Sukritinaha only. Nice term is given, Sukritinaha. Now in the ladder of evolution, the lowest one comes as Artha Bhakta. Artharthi Bhaktas are the lowest ones. So who is an Artha Bhakta? When problem is there, he remembers God. Right? When there are no problems, there is no God for him. He is busy with the world. But when the problem comes, he goes to God. Bhagavan says, no problem, you are also Sukriti only. Why? Because at least you are coming to me, no? You could have taken different paths. You could have tried different ways to solve the problem, but no, you are coming to me. Okay, no problem. At last you are coming to me. Doesn't matter. But at least you are coming to me. So therefore Bhagavan says you are a Sukriti only. So who is an Artha Bhakta? When problems come, they come to God. You may ask this priest, whenever the exams are there, many of the children will come here. They are all Artha Bhaktas. When exams come, they come to the temple. When exams are over, bas, no more temple. So now, what is their philosophy? The Artha Bhakta and Artharthi Bhakta also, for them, world is the goal, God is the means. They don't want God, they want something from the world only. But since by praying to God, you will get it, therefore they pray to God. Right? So don't think that everyone who comes to temple are great devotees or they are great seekers. No. In fact, 99.99% of the people fall into this Artha Bhakta, Artharthi Bhakta. Artha, Artharthi. 99.99. Bhagavan says, no problem. At least they are coming to me, therefore they are Sukriti. So this is Artha Bhakta. Artharthi Bhakta. Who is Artharthi Bhakta? He has so many desires in life. Dhanam, dhanyam, pasum, bahuputra labham, shata samvatsaram, dirghamayu. You understand what it is? I want lot of wealth. I want lot of comforts, lot of luxuries. Right? Lot of children, lot of grandchildren, lot of great-grandchildren, and the house should be filled with all of them. Right? Lot of prosperity, lot of wealth, lot of pleasures. This world, that world, everything I want. Right? And in order to enjoy that, long life. How much? Minimum 100. Shata samvatsaram dirghamayu. So people who worship God in order to get all this, they are called as artharthi. Artha means wealth, desirers of wealth. Again, they are not interested in God, they are only interested in getting these things. Now the question is, does Bhagavan give all these things to them? Artha bhakta, artharthi bhakta. Does Bhagavan bless them with these? Artha bhakta wants all the problems to be solved. Does Bhagavan do that? Definitely yes. Artharthi bhakta wants lot of wealth. Does Bhagavan give that? Definitely yes. What is the proof? The proof is that Tirupati, millions of people are going. Guruvayur, millions of people are going. Why do they go? They have got it, therefore they are going there, isn't it? They have some experience. Yes, I had prayed there. My desires have been fulfilled, therefore I go again and again. Bhagavan is very intelligent. This is how he traps devotees. First he gives whatever you want. He will never shake your faith. If you have little faith in the beginning, some open-mindedness, so therefore you go to God. Because others have got it, maybe I will also get it. This is how everyone starts. You pray for something and you get it. And when you get it, what happens? Your faith in God is strengthened. A little bit of love also comes. Right? And so next time when a problem comes, you tend to go to the same place. Correct? This is what Bhagavan also wants. So in the beginning, all your desires are fulfilled by Him. So that slowly, you come to Him. Then the third category is called Jitnyasu. Who is a Jitnyasu? Jitnyasu is the one who has lot of questions. Where have I come from? Where will I go? What is this world? Why so many people are suffering? Who is God? Where is God? Such a person also seeks God. He is Jitnyasu. And the final one is Jnani, the one who has realized. Now see, is it wrong to go to God when we have some problem? Is it wrong? Let us keep this in mind. It is absolutely not wrong. That is why Bhagavan has called them Sukriti. Here Bhagavan is not criticizing them. You will find in the later verse. Later verse means verse number 18. Udaraha sarva evaite, Bhagavan says. They all are great. Bhagavan himself gives the certificate. All of them are great. So now see, nothing wrong in trying to solve our problems through God. In fact, that is the best way. That is the best way. When the child is having any problem, where should the child go? The child should go to the mother or the father, isn't it? Because the child will get the best answer only from mother and father. So there is absolutely nothing wrong. In fact, this is the thing you must do. Among all the options, the best option is go towards God. Try to fulfill your desires through God. Now God will answer your prayers in 4 different ways. I have discussed this before also. I hope you remember. What is the first way? When you seek something, this is the way He will answer. The first thing is yes. Whatever you ask, He gives you. Second thing is no. You ask something, He doesn't give you. The third is wait. Wait means, wait, at the right time I will give you. And the fourth one is, take, here is something better. What you are asking is something inferior, there is something higher, that he gives. These are the four ways in which Bhagavan answers our prayers. One is yes, second one is no, third one, wait, fourth one, take, here is something better. Now the second one is no. Why the second one is no? You ask something, sometimes it is not good for you, he will not give you. Whatever the child asks, the mother doesn't give. The mother thinks, will it be good for the child? Then only she gives, isn't it? When the child is having fever and the child is asking for ice cream, will the mother give? No. In the same way, Bhagavan is a universal mother. So he knows what to give to whom, when, where, etc. So sometimes the answer may be no, but a true devotee is prepared for that also. He will not get angry with God and say, okay, enough, I will not pray. You don't exist. He will not say that. He said, Bhagavan, you are not giving me, maybe because that is not good for me. This is the way he analyzes. Therefore, he is Sukruti only. Remember, he is also ignorant person. He also doesn't know himself. It is not that he knows what is consciousness and all that. No. But he has a faith. He has faith in God. He has faith in the teachers. He has faith in the scriptures. So therefore he is Sukruti. So the person who is having faith in God, he will be little scared to do something wrong. Isn't it? He will be Sukruti only. He cannot become Dushkritina. Because maybe if I do something wrong, God is there, though I am not experiencing it. I have faith that He is there. He is knowing it. He will punish me. This fear at least keeps him good. Doesn't allow him to take the wrong path. That is good. In the beginning, at least that much is good. So there is nothing wrong in trying to fulfill our desires through God. That is the right way. So when we fulfill our desires through God, God Himself starts guiding us. He will take away all our problems. Artha is gone. Sufferings are gone. He gives whatever you need, whether it is money or pleasure or whatever, everything He gives. But then slowly He gives something else also. What is that? He gives you the understanding that mere wealth is not going to give you happiness. This knowledge also He gives. In the beginning, He gives you little things. But slowly He takes you higher and higher. That is one good thing which happens when you turn to God for everything. Whether material needs or spiritual needs, turn always to God. Then He will guide you at every step. So a time comes when this Artha Bhakta becomes an Artharthi Bhakta. And then this Artharthi Bhakta becomes a Jitnyasu Bhakta. When does that happen? So Bhagavan gives him enough pleasures. And by indulging in these pleasures, he comes to know that there is no happiness there. There is only pain. A time was there when he was needing lot of wealth. Bhagavan makes him stinkingly rich. And at that time he experienced that though I have wealth, I am not happy. Though I have pleasures, I am not happy. Whatever I sought in this world, I have everything, but I am not happy. A time comes when you have everything, but you are hollow within. Right? Then you come to know that yes, real happiness doesn't come from money. Real happiness doesn't come from pleasures. Real happiness doesn't come from power and influence. There is something else. And then this person becomes a Jitnyasu. It is Bhagavan Himself who is guiding every one of us. All of us, we have to go through all these stages. Directly nobody becomes a Jitnyasu. It's not possible. In order to become a Jitnyasu, you must have enough of the world. A hungry person cannot become spiritual. A hungry person needs food. Isn't it? So in this world, Bhagavan knows who is needing what. And according to the need, he gives. So only after becoming an Artharthi, you can become a Jitnyasu. You must see the limitations of Artha, of wealth, of everything that world can give you. You must be fed up with it. You must have seen everything. Then only comes that Vairagya, dispassion. Otherwise you will be like that fox who doesn't get the grapes and they say, the fox says the grapes are sour. That Vairagya will not help. You must eat grapes and it should be sour and then you should spit it out. Then it's fine. One youngster went to Puja Gurudev, Swami Chinmayanandi, and he asked, Swamiji, why did you take sannyas? Youngster. So he was chewing a chewing gum, right? So Gurudev said, when will you spit this chewing gum? And the boy said, yes, when the taste, everything goes away, then I spit it out. Yes. Gurudev said, in the same way, I also spat this world out. There is nothing there in this. I have understood, therefore I renounced it. Sannyasa means to renounce. In the same way, Jitnyasa doesn't come to an Artha Bhakta. It comes only to the one who has seen everything, who has enjoyed everything. That's why Upanishad says, Parikshalokan karmachitan brahmanaha nirvedamayat nastykrita kritena. You must do pariksha of the world. Experiment with the world. Experiment with everything the world can offer. And ultimately, through your own experience, you should come to know there is no happiness here. There is only misery. There is only pain. Agre amrutopamam pariname vishamiva. This should be your experience. In the beginning, it appears to be amrutam, nectar, ambrosia. But in the end, it is only visham, poison. When you come to know this truth, then suddenly the mind takes a U-turn. You become dispassionate. And such a dispassionate person, now that he is not finding happiness anywhere, he will seek for happiness. And such a seeker of happiness will be a true seeker. And such a true seeker of happiness is called a Jitnyasu. There is a Jitnyasa in him, curiosity in him, anxiety in him. Where does happiness lie? Such a person alone will enjoy the talks on Bhagavad Gita. Right? Others will not. They say, what is this nonsense going on? What are these old people doing here, sitting, wasting their time? Such a wonderful cricket match is going on, and what are these foolish people doing? This is what they will say. But people who are real Jitnyasus, they don't value anything in life. They value only this. Isn't it? Jitnyasu. And once such a person becomes a Jitnyasu, he is interested only in the higher. He is not tempted by the lower because he has seen the limitations of the lower. He is only interested in the higher. He values the higher. He has time for the higher. He puts forth effort for the higher. And such a person reaches the higher. And once he reaches the higher, this Jitnyasu himself becomes Jnani. The highest, the best. Remember, for a Jitnyasu and a Jnani, God is the goal, world is the means. For an Artha Bhakta and an Artharthi Bhakta, God is the means, world is the goal. Total shift. Total shift. So among all the devotees, Jnani is the best. This Bhagavan says it in the next verse. Let us chant that. Tesham jnani nitya yuktaha eka bhaktir vishishyate priyo hi jnani notyartham aham sacha mama priyaha tesham jnani nitya yuktaha eka bhaktir vishishyate priyo hi jnani notyartham aham sacha mamah priyah. Yes, tesham, among them. Among them means among these four categories: artha, artharthi, jitnyasu and jnani. Tesham, among them, jnani vishishyate, he is the best. Why is he best? Because eka bhakti. Eka bhakti means single pointed devotion. He wants God and God alone, nothing else. He is interested only in God. He has pure love for God. He doesn't want anything in return. Eka bhakti, nitya yuktaha, ever steadfast. Ever steadfast. Desiring only God and God alone. Such a jnani is the best. Vishishyate. For such a jnani, what is said? Jnaninaha aham atyartham priyah. For a jnani, I am extremely dear to him. But Bhagavan, for jnani, you may be extremely dear. But what about you? Arey, the same thing with me also. Saha mama priyah. He is also extremely dear to me. See that. For a jnani, Bhagavan is extremely dear. For Bhagavan, jnani is extremely dear. See that. Intense love for each other. Right? The greatness of a jnani is, he says, Bhagavan, you give me problems, doesn't matter. But see to it that my devotion for you never gets reduced. That is his way of thinking. You must have heard the prayer of Kunti Mata. This comes in Bhagavatam. I'll just read it out to you. Vipadas santu nashashvata tatra tatra jagat guru bhavato darshanam yatsyat apunar bhavadarshanam. This is a prayer by Kunti Mata unto Bhagavan. This comes in Kunti Stuti in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So what does Kunti Mata say? Vipadas santu nashashvata. Bhagavan, give us more and more problems. Vipadaha, calamities. You give lot of calamities to us. Please give. Why is it so? Tatra tatra, again and again. Why? Because bhavato darshanam yatsyat. Because Bhagavan, only when I am in problem, I intensely pray to you. And thus I start experiencing your presence in my heart. So since I pray only when I am in trouble, so therefore Bhagavan, give me more and more trouble. This is a true sign of a devotee. Right? What is our prayer? Bhagavan, take our problems. Here, this devotee says, Bhagavan, put me in eternal sorrow, so that I will always remember you. All the devotees have been praying like this. True devotees have always been praying like this. Bhagavan, I would like to be in hell and remembering you than in heaven forgetting you. This is another prayer by another devotee. This is a true sign. Bhagavan, I can't even think of without you. This is the way. Poverty is fine. Disease is fine. Let me get laid down on the bed for throughout my life. Doesn't matter. But see to it that my love for you doesn't diminish. Bhagavan says, such a devotee is extremely dear to me. Because he wants only me. Tesham jnani nitya yuktaha eka bhaktihi vishishyate. He is the best. But Bhagavan, what about others? Let us chant the next one. Udara sarva evaite jnani tvatmaiva me matam asthitas sahi yuktatma māmevanuttamāṃ gatim udārā sarva evaite jnani tvatmaiva me matam asthita sahi yuktatma mamevānuttamāṃ gatim. What about others? Bhagavan says, udara sarva. Ete sarve eva udaraha. All of them are great, no doubt. I'm not criticizing anyone. I'm not derating anyone. But again, Bhagavan comes back to Jnani only. What does Bhagavan say? Jnani tu Atma eva. He is my very self. Now here, Bhagavan reveals who he is. What does Bhagavan say? He is the very self. See this. Jnani tu me Atma. He is myself. There is no difference between Jnani and Bhagavan. Both are one and the same. Because Jnani has known himself to be consciousness. This consciousness is none other than Bhagavan. There is no difference. We are one and the same. Jnani tu Atmaiva me matam. Such a sayuktatma Anuttamam gati mam eva asthitaha. Such a person, mam eva asthitaha, he is very well established in me, firmly rooted in me, desiring nothing other than me. Why is he seeking me alone? Because mam anuttamam gatim. He knows that I am the ultimate goal, the best goal in life. If something has to be sought, you must seek God alone. Why is it so? Because God alone is real. Everything is unreal. God alone is permanent. Everything else is impermanent. God alone can give you total fulfillment because He is of the nature of Ananda Swarupa. This a Jnani knows. Therefore, he is very well established in me, rooted in me. He is my own self. Now, how much Bhagavan loves a Jnani, you can see. You see? Verse number 17, 18, dedicated totally for a Jnani. He doesn't stop there. He continues further about Jnani. So, see, whenever you love someone, you want to speak about him more and more, isn't it? So here Bhagavan says there are 4 types of devotees, and after listing them, he is continuing his narration about the Jnani. Next verse also dedicated to Jnani. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate Vasudeva sarvamiti Samahatma sudurlabha Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate Vasudeva sarvamiti Samahatma sudurlabha. Yes. Bahunam janmanamante. After very many births, Jnanavan mam prapadyate. After very many births, this person, after going from Artha Bhakta to Artharthi Bhakta to Jitnyasu Bhakta, ultimately he becomes Jnanavan, gains the knowledge about me, who I truly am. After having becoming Jnanavan, he attains me. He completely surrenders unto me, becomes one with me. Bahunam janmanamante. Such a great one. What is his understanding? Vasudevaha sarvamiti. Whatever is seen in this world is Vasudeva only. Bhagavan alone. What is Vasudeva here? Vas means existence. Div means to illumine. So it is nothing but existence consciousness. So Vasudeva, the meaning of Vasudeva is existence consciousness bliss. Satchit Ananda Atma. Vasudevaha Sarvam. The whole world is none other than Bhagavan alone. This he realizes. And then Samahatma, such a great man, such a wisest man on earth, Sudurlabha, very, very rare they are. Rarely we find such a Mahatma who have become one with Bhagavan. So, through this discussion, what we understand, Bhagavan wants every one of us to become such a Mahatma. See, when it comes to description of a Jnani, Bhagavan is not able to stop. He is continuing on and on and on. Isn't it? So here this topic gets over. Next topic is about a third category. What is the first category? They don't have faith in God. Dushkritinaha. What is the second category? They have faith in God. Sukritinaha. Now there is a third category. A very strange category. Can you say they don't have faith in God? No. They have faith in God. But they don't have faith in one God. They have faith in so many gods. That is the problem. So now, their case is discussed in the next topic that we will see tomorrow. Worshippers of multiple gods. Right. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhaved Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritangamaya Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om